you like to take your seats and we'll begin? I'll introduce myself first. I'm Katie and I run Whirlygig Cinema, which runs these events called Spotlights, where we bring up-and-coming or established filmmakers to go through their films, talk about their work, and then give you a chance to ask them lots of questions. And we've been invited by the London Short Film Festival to put on 3 nights of short films, focusing on the films that won the festival since it started in 2004, I think. And tonight we've got Chris Allen from Light Surgeons, who won the festival in 2006. David Liddell, who is a cinematographer for Paris Sexy, which won the festival in 2011. And Jeff Benstock, who won it in 2005 with his film Orders of Love. And we've got a fabulous host tonight, Carla McKinnon. She's going to take over from me and talk through the filmmakers and ask some questions and things like that. So we're going to have each film and then we'll have a short break in between. And so you can grab drinks and stuff in between. And so I hope you enjoy the evening. I'll pass it to Carla now.
Hello. Well, without further ado, it's a great pleasure to introduce Chris Allen. He's going to be screening his LSFF winning film In Passing and a few other of your films, I think.
Yeah.
And there'll be a chance to ask Chris questions at the end.
Sure. Thank you very much. Hi. I'm going to sit down, I think. It's a bit more cosy in here, isn't it? Yeah, my name's Chris Allen. I'm the founder and director of a small production company called Light Surgeons. Been around since, well, for almost 15 years now. And began, really, my background is in graphic design, so I worked in the music industry and I used to design record covers, and I had an interest in film and collecting kind of projectors, and began, I guess, doing what you would call VJing very early 90s, and progressed on to do a lot of work with music and bands, and really discovered documentary film probably late in the 90s when DV cameras became available and Final Cut Pro came out, and suddenly a whole kind of world of opportunity for making work came about. And I was working a lot with music and began working very directly with composers. So the work we've made over the years kind of is sort of audio-visual, and we present our work sometimes in sort of theatre spaces, and we do sort of live cinema performances. So the first film I'm going to show is actually the second sort of short film that we've ever made, and it's based in America. We did a lot of travelling in America, working on visuals for pop bands in the 90s, and gathered a lot of footage, and started doing a few different projects, which led to sort of recording interviews, sort of more audio interviews with people, and gathered one very interesting interview with a guy in Venice Beach in probably 1999, a guy called Robert Allen Weiser, who was a sort of street philosopher, poet guy that I met on the beach in LA. And that interview became the basis for a live cinema performance and 2 short sort of experimental documentary films, which we developed with a festival called 1-0. So the first film is called The City of Hollow Mountains, yeah, enjoy it.
Once you get past the Golden Gate Bridge, man, and you hit Sausalito and you start moving up to Napa-Sonoma to the wine valleys, man, and Jenner, man, Mendocino County, Humboldt County, man, they grow a huge pot there, man, and the government don't even know. You know, it's redwood country, man. The biggest trees in the world, man. You gotta go see it, man. You gotta go see it. 4,000, 5,000-year-old, 6,000-year-old trees. Yeah, up in Leggett, when I seen a house built in a tree, in a redwood tree, I slept by it that night, man, you know? And then from there I went to Oregon, man. Beautiful. Oregon is nice too. It's like the Christmas tree state. All the, I bet you nobody pays for a Christmas tree in Oregon, man. There's nothing but Christmas trees, pines and spruces and everything, man. It's beautiful. You know, it's really beautiful. Beautiful. In Northern California, it's nicer. Southern California is garbage. It's really garbage, you know, because it's just like New York. It's just like New York, a whole lot of people and everybody rushing around, a lot of prejudice and everything. And if you go to San Francisco, a lot of homosexuals and everything. And, you know, I seen this cowboy guy from Texas, man. He had his arm on this big girl, man. And I had so many beers, man. And I swore to God, she was a girl, man, you know? And I knew I better get out of here. I'm going to run into one of those girls and think she's a girl, man. And I might have my arm around her, too, man. Too many beers. Oh, it's completely different. You know, it's two different scenes, man. Completely. This is beauty. This is beauty. This is beauty. I mean, look at it. It's gorgeous, man. It's like being on a desert island, man, or something like that. New York is being like in the city of hollow mountains. Nothing but mountains and mountains, huge skyscrapers and everything. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. Yeah, I was born in Manhattan. And everybody bumping into you and everybody rushing around, man. As you get on a train, you feel like you're in a train with in a sardine can. Everybody squashing up against you. People push you in elevators, don't even say excuse me, man, or anything, man. New York sucks, man.
So that piece of work kind of came out of a lot of experimentation with video and sound and playing around with music, and the music was original and made with my character Jude. And I guess a lot of our work and film work had kind of come out of this more freedom of playing around with film and video and music in a kind of live context. and 1.0 as a festival gave us a space to sort of develop that sort of work, and we presented that film as part of a longer live performance called All Points in Between, which took lots of these kind of audio narratives and sort of poetic sort of documentary film footage and mixed it all together into this kind of audio-visual sit-down performance. And we've done several of these now. The next film I'm going to show is taken as a sort of a product that came out of another very big commissioned work we did in America, going back to New York. And after spending a lot of time there, my brother moving to New York and spending a lot of time going back and forth, and having finished that film very soon, just before 9/11, as you can see, the Twin Towers are in it, and becoming quite interested in the politics of post 9/11, and that piece was in this All Points in Between performance that we were showing. Took bits of news footage and sort of tried to sort of deconstruct and ask questions about the kind of rhetoric and the political narrative of 9/11 and this sort of war on terror. And we would take bits of news footage and speeches by President Bush and stuff and re-edit them and play around with them live. I became very fascinated with that subject, and so when I was invited by an organisation called MPAC in upstate New York to make a new project, I kind of proposed to explore this idea of mythology in America, and the town that this place MPAC is based in, which stands for the Experimental Media Performing Arts Centre, and it's an amazing kind of new building connected to this university called RPI. The little town is called Troy, and Troy has sort of adopted Uncle Sam as its kind of figurehead, and it has this whole story about Uncle Sam coming from Troy and being this real character. And so I became very interested in this idea about how history is sort of created and how it's sort of fought over, and how it's sort of very kind of, I think, as a European going to America, you just become very aware of that sort of hyper-reality of America and how it adopts histories. And so the kind of politics and all of what happened around 9/11 became something I became very interested in. And it just so happened that when this project was commissioned, which was in sort of 2006, it was coming up to the sort of 5th anniversary of 9/11. And myself and the person I was working on all the documentary film with, another filmmaker and artist who isn't here, but a guy called Rob Rainbow, we went to the 9/11 kind of anniversary, and we recorded a lot of material, and it became the sort of access point in this performance piece. But it ended up as a short film, and I haven't really shown it to many people, so I thought it was a nice thing to watch. And it's called Truth Movements, and yeah, it'd be interesting to hear what you think.
I'm sad, and I was lost when I heard that it has been collapsed. I was crying, but most people will not believe me, probably because I'm Muslim. Because of the media, newspapers, the magazines, everywhere you look, they have always like all the bad elements of Islam.
Islamofascists are murderers.
It doesn't represent Islam. Bin Laden doesn't represent Islam.
Who basically created Bin Laden? Who helped Bin Laden along? Who was Bin Laden very close with? I mean, he was working with the CIA for many, many years.
No, this is Islamofascism that wants the whole world to be Muslim.
I knew they were going to hit us again. Somewhere or another they will find a way. They did.
We just had a plane crash into a fall of the World Trade Center.
And then next thing you know, you got another one coming right into the second building.
And for a second explosion in building number 2.
You know, the outrageous idea to fly planes into buildings.
Send every available ambulance, everything you got to the World Trade Center now.
400 firemen died, like 300 policemen died, almost 2,000 people. It was very close. It's like
this is something he will never forget. It will be the people jumping from the buildings and crashing below. It was the most awful sight I've never seen something so awful in my life.
You know, we've lost 3,000 people here. How many thousands more people are going to die because of this one event?
I don't know what's going on. What's going on, please?
200,000 unnecessary Iraqi deaths. We're here out of respect. We're here for the truth. So the minute it happened, and when 10 minutes later this administration professed to know that bin Laden did it, you know, kind of raised the red flag for me.
It's a good reason to believe it's been a conspiracy, you know?
They knew something was happening.
I mean, we've been deceived and we've been lied to for years now.
2 days before, all the buildings had an insurance claim put on them for anti-terrorism claim. Then the buildings dropped.
I think there's a lot of powers that beat us that kind of allowed this to happen. I think it was kind of like exactly what they wanted.
George Orwell, the time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act.
Total deceit and deception. Can we face the truth? Everybody's being deceived.
The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Everybody on every scale. Can we handle the truth? Release all the facts. Release everything. Let the public see.
The public needs to know that this wasn't really what happened.
And the real guys behind this, you'll never hear their names.
The truth is these buildings were brought down through controlled demolition. That is the truth.
It was a big boom. Then the collapse happened.
No one can really, wrap their mind around it.
A lot of it makes sense.
But then after a while, you start to examine the facts and believe it.
You eliminate all other possibilities, and what you're left with, unfortunately, has to be something very close to what the truth is.
But I really believe that the evidence is leaning towards very strongly that this was an inside job.
I just wish that way here when this happened. They wouldn't be talking this way.
The North Tower is leaning up. Our operations are being moved. There's another collapse.
You know what happened that morning? I remember. I saw what fucking happened. Planes hit the building and they fell down.
I don't care what they say. What could turn concrete into dust?
The buildings fell at free fall speed.
Nothing but dust and steel.
The concrete turned to dust in midair.
The building vaporized in front of everybody's eyes.
All at once, upon its own footprint.
I work 6 blocks from here. I know it from looking at it.
They fell symmetrically.
The real laws of physics that all of our lives are subject to.
They fell in on themselves, which is the path of greatest resistance.
You people won't even let anybody else walk. They found the guy's passport down here. Explain that.
There were explosives placed in this building prior to the planes hitting.
The BBC, 7 hijackers are still alive. They demolished the building.
Steel doesn't need to hit 2,000 degrees.
Let's say that story is true. Explain Building 7.
The planes were diversion. Planes did not cause the buildings to collapse. That's the truth.
It is a myth-making exercise, and the myth continues.
Our president did not have anything to do with these bombings.
It's filled with all kinds of visceral feelings.
But I honestly believe George Bush does not have an evil intent in his heart. Come on.
A feeling of wanting to defend against an unknown enemy.
This has nothing to do with the government.
All of us, it's human nature to respond the way that people do.
This has everything to do with the people that it's dead.
We're being lied to, and why?
President Eisenhower, his last public address was, within it he said, beware of the power of the military-industrial complex.
The military-industrial complex. Think about it. Who benefits?
The suppliers of armaments and the War Department.
Think about it.
ExxonMobil made billions!
Yes, it's about oil and controlling the oil and the natural gas.
Terrorist regimes are operating inside of Iraq.
They use this as a pretext to go into Iraq.
Saddam Hussein was backing these people.
An oil war which didn't benefit the American people at all.
With money, with weapons, with equipment.
Like all it did was make these people who are now in power even more wealthy and more powerful than they've ever been before.
Well, he's trying to do the right thing.
Create the chaos, keep one side against the other, but everybody's not focusing on who did this. The American people are waking up, and we're not going to fall for it.
Too many people know the truth.
And if you pull something else, we're not going to blame some innocent sovereign nation. We're going to know exactly who it is, and you'll be brought to trial and prosecuted as the criminals you are.
You know what happened. The people that don't know the truth are going to be like, hey, get those terrorists, which is what they want.
You're right. Terrorism attacks us at home, and you people think that nothing is wrong.
They crossed the Rubicon, so to speak. They can't go back. They've already committed treason.
You people think that it's all the government's fault.
You know, a wounded animal is very dangerous.
Are you serious? You ever been in a war zone? You know how it's been sucked away from every single one with bullets over your head? Get the fuck out of our country! Get the fuck out!
Now you get called a traitor if you dissent.
We're patriots. We're here because we love our country.
Now we're living in the age of McCarthyism. Again. You can no longer travel freely without being degraded, without being searched, without being singled out. We're going to lose all our freedom. We're going to be in a police state, and nobody's saying nothing.
Give up your liberty to be free? It's counterintuitive.
Can you yell fire in a crowded theater? No, you can't. Can you threaten people? No, you can't. So free speech is not always free.
If somebody has a difference of opinion, what are they going to do? They're going to be afraid to say something because they're going to be branded as a terrorist?
The word free depends on the context.
We have a right to ask the questions, and we have a right to have those questions answered.
And you know what? In my opinion, and this will be my free speech here, I don't think it's right to come down here and disrespect the families and the friends of all our firemen and everyone who came down there.
This is about mourning over the dead, my brother.
We're doing more of a justice for the people that have died than their families who believe the hype that Osama bin Laden has done this. And I feel sorry for them. So I'm here to support the people who have passed away, and I'm here to support my country. I support America. I support our troops because they don't belong in the war, but I don't support my government at all.
And everybody thinks that they have a say in this government. We have no say.
You know, that's the thing, is if you cower in fear, they've won.
It's only a perception that you have a say, but you don't have a say.
The people that I know that I've talked to about 9/11 are afraid to live their lives.
You know, who is watching, who is listening?
Try not to give in to your fears. Fight back against the terrorists. Go shopping. That'll make you feel better.
So it's part of a much longer piece of work which travelled around New York State, and a lot of it revolved around talking a kind of polemic between the sort of Native American perspective on sort of American history and mythology and their kind of their roots in sort of oral tradition and not writing things down, and this sort of question of truth, which you know is an endless kind of subject. But we presented down, we toured it for a couple of, about 3 or 4 years. We last performed it in Brazil with Portuguese subtitles in Sao Paulo, which was quite mad, and did it at the IMAX. And so that as I still always felt that kind of stood alone as a really interesting little kind of piece, you know. And you know, it's quite, I kind of have my own opinion and stuff, but I think it's interesting. It's an interesting subject. I don't think it's something that's going to go away. It's going to continue to be discussed and fought over, because it's sort of pretty much defined the century so far. So anyway, that's America, putting that aside. The film that brought me here tonight was a film called In Passing, which was, I think, won the festival in 2007 maybe, or 6, I'm not sure now. That was an interesting project in that, it started as not as a film. It was a commission by the BBC, had a project in Manchester, which was a public screen in the centre of Manchester, in an area that had been bombed by the IRA and been redeveloped and turned into a shopping centre, and they put this big video screen in the middle of the town, and they pretty much ran like News 24 on it, and to an audience mainly of lager sipping sort of homeless people, from what I could tell. We're kind of running this project anyway to sort of engage artists and kind of trying to make work that was kind of made site specifically to this screen. The project was called The Bigger Picture, and we were, I think, one of the first kind of groups of artists. They ran a project and commissioned a series of these films, and this was a project I worked on with the guy I worked on this filmmaking documentary that we just watched, a guy called Rob Rainbow, and we kind of co-directed it. And I guess another aspect to Night Surgeon's work is this sort of idea of kind of psychogeography, and it was something we went into this project very much thinking about, with the sort of locale where the film was going to be seen, and kind of trying to explore how people view the city, really. And I don't want to give too much away about the film if you haven't watched it before, but and maybe I'll explain a little bit more after we've seen it. Yeah, it was all shot around where it was shown originally in Manchester. I can't remember the name of the square now, it's in the centre. Yeah, we'll watch it, see what, and then maybe I can talk a bit more, so I don't want to ruin it. It's called In Passing. Yeah, enjoy.
You can hear bits and pieces. The way somebody moves, you almost think, well, they can't be bothered today. Or they slump, you know. Or you can tell somebody who's in a rush, or somebody that's got something on the mind. You can tell, you can just tell, because you think they're not concentrating, and I'm going to look back around them in a minute, so I'll move over. But if I'm trying to meet somebody, then I would listen for the voice or the footsteps, because I'd be used to them. You know, they move differently. People have different wobbles. Somebody's firm-footed, they'll be firm-footed in soft shoes as well as firm shoes. If somebody walks on their toes or shuffles their feet, they will still shuffle no matter what footwear they've got on, even wellies.
When we get home, I shut on all set.
The city at night to work is hard for me, in the sense it all changes. Like the lighting that comes on that's not there in the day, because I can use that lighting to find my way around, because obviously it's something I can see. But when it's accompanied with headlights, it's confusing and dazzling. It's busy, all the smells are more pungent, everything's more active, isn't it? Perfume, because everybody puts extra on to capture the opposite sex or whatever it is. Smoke as well, because it builds up in the pubs or whatever, and then it comes out and doors are open. You get wafts of it. It can reek, really. It's too confused. It's too much to put into an order to process. It's too much too soon. So I just end up very confused. It's almost as if somebody's waxed the radio up full with very scrambled at the same times. There's that line, isn't there, where it's too noisy that you can't think and I can't find my way round. Where there's also when it's too quiet, that if you hear anything, you can, well, what's that? Is that something that's coming my way? Because it's too quiet, so you're picking everything up. Whereas you've just got a natural drum and things, and it's easier because you just come accustomed to it. Yeah, and then suddenly I think, like, well, where am I? Because I've lost my concentration, that it's 3 down curbs, which is a road, because obviously you go down 3, and a left, and I know that I'm at, whatever it is, Boots or whatever, and if something like that happens, I'll suddenly think, gosh, how many curbs have I gone down? 1, 2, 3, and then I have to suddenly think exactly where am I, right? Is there anything I can see, because I've got some vision left? So I'll then look for something big, patterns, monuments, anything, signposts that stay the same, not billboards because they change them, more of an office sign or painted railings, you know, strong characteristics that don't really change. Hopefully they don't knock it down, and then I can get myself back together and carry on. You work around the city, you kind of live that lifestyle, don't you? You're always busy, you've not got time to stop like everybody else. But you find when you do stop and look around in a town, everybody's bustling about. There's very few people that are just taking the time, stood there watching.
So, yeah, that started off actually originally as an idea of mine was to sort of record the psychogeography of sort of Manchester through overheard conversations, and I spent a good few days walking around the city trying to record people's conversations, which was actually quite difficult and suspicious. And I kind of set up this sort of thing in my backpack, and I could kind of walk in front of people and try and record them and get these little snippets. And I came back and I had all this sound, and I kind of started cutting it all together, and I wanted to do something that was very typographic, because part of the problem with the screen was it was very low resolution, and it was an LED screen, nothing like the LED you get now. And so I knew it had to be very graphic, and I was kind of interested in this idea of, I mean, my background's in graphic design, so I was kind of interested in this idea of sort of legibility and how in the city you sort of overhear little bits of things, and you know, you were able to kind of create these sort of narratives. And the fact that people would see this film and it would be in a public space, and it would be kind of commenting on their environment in some way. Anyway, so that kind of failed really, because I kind of gathered all this stuff, came back to London, started kind of trying to edit a story from that, and it didn't really feel like it was right. And then it was really a conversation I've been having with my friend and colleague Rob about blindness, and we'd for a long time been talking about blindness as a really interesting, you know, people who had disabilities having this more sort of heightened sense of sensory perception. And so we got in touch with a blind society of Manchester, and we found this woman, and then we just went up and interviewed her as an experiment really, and that just provided this really nice kind of story really that allowed the other ideas to sort of sit within it, and I think really that's what allowed the piece to work as a film, and it went into film festivals, and it did really well, and it got the award at the London Short Film Festival, and then we were actually invited by Sundance to show it at Sundance, which was kind of pretty mad. So me and Rob went over to Sundance, and it was shown with a film about a feature film about a deaf couple. So it kind of, you know, the fact that everything is represented through typography and kind of verbatim on screen kind of allowed it to be accessed by a deaf audience as well. So it's something kind of took on this life that I never imagined it would ever do. And so it was lovely that it kind of had that kind of journey really. But there are plenty of other short films that I've made that I would have shown tonight. But I think what I was going to leave you guys with is the last short film that I've directed. Oh, is there?
Yeah.
Do you want me to show another two? I can. What?
No, one is probably okay because we're running out of time.
Yeah, let's just do one. So there are other, and you can watch them. They're all on the internet. They're on Vimeo, on our Vimeo channel. I thought I'd leave you with Shamama.
Oh, it is that one. Okay.
Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine.
It's a film I made that was commissioned by the Jewish Film Festival, and it's a short documentary exploring this sort of idea of luck, and it was kind of an idea for a feature film that I've been kind of hoping to make and researching and looking at this sort of. I was just very interested in this idea of theology and belief and our kind of anthropological kind of roots of where things like religion kind of come from, and I thought this idea of luck was a really interesting subject, and didn't get very far with getting a much bigger documentary kind of film made. But through the process of kind of making this idea, working with a producer, kind of came up with this a series of these characters, and one of the characters was this Jewish kind of Yiddish kind of folklore guy called Shlomuzel, and hopefully the film will explain everything else. But it's gone on and done really well and been in some of the festivals, and it was nominated for the first Vimeo Awards, which I went out to New York for with lots of hope, but unfortunately didn't win anything. So there you go. I must be a Shlomuzel. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it, and you know, please come up and say hello, and you know, I'd love to hear what you think. Thank you very much.
I think either you've got it or you haven't. I think it's genetic. You're born with it, and some people definitely have it. You can't travel anywhere physical to find it. You just look inside.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say, because at the end of the day you look at people's lives and either they were lucky or unlucky. Was that something that was written once they were born or not?
You're born and you die. And in between, everything's going to happen. Whatever's done, it's fated. And your name's on the book, you're born such and such a date and you die such and such a date.
Just because you happen to be born on a certain day, in a certain month, in a certain year, to certain parents in a certain country, with certain opportunities and certain etc., etc., certain weaknesses and certain advantages, does not condemn you to live a certain way.
I was born on the 13th, and somebody told me that 13 is supposed to be lucky for Jews, and I don't know if it is, but I live at number 13.
There's no question you get people who just somehow or other, whatever they do, it goes wrong. And it kind of, you get this sense of a luckless fellow who tries everything. He's the person who ever, you know, every time they drop a bit of toast, it falls butter side down.
But I'm a Shlomuzel. I am an unlucky person. I'm followed around by bad luck. Every time I get my bag hooked on the door handle, it's confirmation of anti-Semitism.
There's something laying on the floor. 9 people have walked past and won't even, another person will pick it up, make a fortune out of it. That's muzzle.
But this word muzzle, you see, is translated as luck. I mean, it's a bad start. This doesn't mean that. So the word muzzle actually comes from a word which means flow. It means a kind of a flow from the upper world to the lower world, which you might call luck.
Well, if you literally translate it, there's a literal translation and there's how people use it.
Muzzle means luck. That's what it means there. A little bit of luck is worth more than a ton of hard work. Just a little bit of luck.
It's a bit like an aerial. If you want to get a television signal, you've got to put the aerial on the roof, and you've got to make sure it's facing the right way, and it's connected to your television. Your television will do all that, you get a picture. But if you don't do those things, it doesn't matter how good the air is, you won't get a picture.
You know, you can have a flow of good energy or a flow of bad energy. It's not, you know, part of what people would say is science or rational thinking. You know, it doesn't necessarily make sense. You know, if you took whatever, 2 identical twins and you gave them the same life and one was lucky and one was unlucky, there'd be no rational explanation for that.
There's a big chunk of our life that we discuss in these terms, bad luck, good luck. It's just a way for us to talk about it. We need that. We need a way to discuss all these things that happen to us that we can't explain.
Luck is like a remnant of a very primitive belief in the power of outside forces over us.
Back in ancient times, there was the art of astrology, being able to predict things in the stars through the heavens.
Astrology is looking for meaning in life, as all religions are, but astrology is not a religion. You don't believe in astrology any more than you believe in a telephone.
Judaism definitely believes in the kind of karma idea, what they call measure for measure. If the stars, if you like, are not treating you well, that's possibly because you're not treating other people well.
But Jewish people can be very, very superstitious, that's for sure. Somebody did put a curse on me once and I had to I had it removed. I do get advice on this. You think certain people, you feel that maybe they can wish you bad luck.
You know, when things go badly wrong, then we'll try all the mumbo jumbo we know to try and make it work out. So somewhere or other, that sort of superstitious kind of thing is probably lurking in all of us.
You know, like when you get to the ladder and you think, well, do I walk under it or do I not walk under it? And you think, well, actually, if it's just as quick to walk around it virtually, it will take half a second. Why not walk around it?
See, Jewish people don't believe in luck. We believe that, you know, things are meant to happen. I believe that it's in the Talmud that says a leaf does not fall from a tree that the Almighty isn't aware of.
We live our lives, it's like a piece of embroidery. We see the rough side of it, but there might be a very beautiful side on the other side that we can't see. We only see all the stitching on the wrong side of the fabric.
People are looking for deterministic things because the world is very confusing. Religion, a lot of times, is about trying to relieve anxieties and fear.
Faith wears a fancier dress. Faith is like superstition with A levels, I guess. Maybe you could say that superstition is about avoiding problems, and faith is trying to give meaning. But the two are definitely linked.
But there's always been a tension between kind of popularist sort of hesitating to use the word peasant religion and the kind of, you know, philosophers and thinkers who say, no, it's not like that, you don't need to do that.
It all depends on your psychological standpoint, whether you call the thing luck, chance or fate. Luck makes us feel a little bit better. You know, you feel there's a dice rolling, it could have easily rolled a different way and maybe it will in the future. Chance creates the impression of a universe in chaos. And fate creates the impression of some big bastard who's controlling it.
It's a very complicated situation and you need a language to discuss that, to feel that you're controlling your own personal reality.
We're becoming more and more rational, in inverted commas, and luck, the territory that was occupied by luck, is being gradually annexed by religion and then science.
What science is actually doing is probably bringing us closer to God, because we have more understanding of the incredible way in which the world is constructed.
If you look at it, when the scientists get to the point of who created the universe, they know it as little as a religious person. And science tells you the limits of what you know. It can't tell you what you don't know. It can't say that it's the black swan theory. It can't tell you what won't exist.
Every so often you're going to get a massive unexpected event which turns all your previous knowledge upside down on its head.
That's why we're fascinated with whether there's a God or not. It's related. It's all the things that we don't know how to deal with. We don't know how to predict. We can't control them. Control is a way to, you know, deal with fear or the illusion of control.
I mean, I predict that luck will make a comeback, and I just think that at the moment we're so into explaining everything. If you look at quantum mechanics, there's a lot of luck in quantum mechanics, quantum physics.
It's all random. You're much more aware of sort of the invisible. We're really just like shadows. To ourselves we're solid, but we're not really. We're really mostly empty space.
There's a limit to our ability to understand things, especially human behavior. So I think there's no fear for luck.
It's easy to hide behind luck and say, oh, I'm just an unlucky person, and that absolves me of any kind of responsibility, any introspection, any improvement.
We are responsible for all that happens to us. We are responsible for the interpretation we put on what happens to us. And that's where luck and bad luck are complete bullshit.
You make your own luck, you make your own unluck. And you wake up in the morning, if your eyes are open, you make the best of the day.
It's a blessing. Everybody wants to be loved, everybody wants to be blessed. When you throw the dice, or you spin the wheel, or you flip the coin, somehow or other, some force in the world is smiling on you, and you've come up tops by beating the probabilities, by beating something that's not necessarily in your favour.
Who thought I'd live to 101? Not in a million years.
If you're lucky, you're lucky. If you're unlucky, you're a schmozzle. If you're not lucky.
I am a schmozzle myself, I think we all are, but I know that's because of my psychological makeup. And I know if I just went to therapy 3 times a week instead of once a week, I might become more lucky. But, you know, we've all got things to do.
We've got a couple of minutes. I'll start off, that's all right. They're really unusual films, beautiful films, and very interesting films actually. But really unusual, particularly in the way that you use music and voices, stories, people, sounds, and pictures in this very kind of, it feels like a sort of a democratic union between all these different things. Like there's not one that takes priority. I was wondering, when you're starting something like this, and I was particularly thinking of the New York one, how much of the narrative drive, how much of what it's really about do you go out hunting for, and how much of it comes in the editing process and just working through the material you've got?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people find them quite difficult because of those reasons. I think we've got a very established idea of how films should be. We like characters, we like archetypes, we like, you know, it goes right back into our kind of, you know, how we've been brought up with film. And I guess because I'm not a filmmaker, I kind of never approach film like that. I kind of think of it more like I'm interested in something, I make a film because I want to learn something myself, and I go on that journey and I talk to lots of people and I gather all this data, and it's more like a cloud of information to me. And a lot of the time it gets shown in lots of different ways, so that's just one reading of a lot of material. You know, a film is just one journey. You know, that journey could be shown in lots of different ways. The way it's edited changes the meaning, you know, so as soon as you start making documentary you realise that there is no objectivity and you are creating meaning. And so, I don't know, a lot of people, it's a difficult subject. I talk to people who are anthropologists and folklorists and stuff like that, and they're kind of they find it very difficult because they're, you know, it is sort of taking lots of different people's comments and putting them together. But I guess I try and do that in a balanced way, and I kind of think of it more like sort of journalism, and I just sort of take a tapestry of different things that all kind of show light on a subject, and I try and kind of find a way of putting them into something that by the end of it hopefully makes you think about it. You know, I think it's, without being too didactic about it as well, it's quite difficult.
And do you feel like that process allows you to work out what you think about it too as you're doing it,
Yeah,
or
definitely.
you bring your voice in from earlier on?
I think you can enter a film with an idea of what you think you might want to talk about, but I think if you enter it with knowing what it's going to be before you've made it, then it's a sort of a bit of a shame, really. I think, you know, I think you have to approach a film with a question, and hopefully the journey of making the film will answer that. You know, I mean, I'm not particularly I'm not a religious person, but I kind of think the process of making a film is a puzzle, and things along the journey, you know, kind of start to snap into places, and they start to make sense, and you start to find pattern. Because we're all searching for pattern, we're all searching for meaning, like they're talking about in that film. And I think the process of making films is very much the same thing. And I think you have to have something you want to understand by making a film, because God, you don't make any money out of making films. There's got to be some reason to do it, right? I mean...
Yeah. Other questions? Well, on the money question then.
Yeah.
Again, so if you're approaching these things, well, I'm actually interested in how pieces of work like this get made, because I know it must be difficult. So these seem to be kind of commissions from lots of different places. Do you approach people with quite a fully formed sort of idea of what you want to do, or is it more people coming to you and say, like what you do?
That last film, for instance, was a much more ambitious idea, to make a much longer film, a much more sort of ethnographic film, looking at lots of different cultures internationally, and looking at this sort of roots of sort of our belief and our theology through this idea of luck and charms and and you start tracing back a lot of the religions, they all kind of come back to similar things, and I just became very interested in that subject and was trying to do quite an ambitious project where I wanted to try and get funding to do a more of a global film that would sort of skip around the world looking at these things, and didn't really get very far with it, because I think it's hard in filmmaking if you're trying to make, I think what we call in the sort of TV industry, they call it a list film, where it's not just one person speaking, it's a series of different people's voices. And it's not an established format that a lot of people can buy into, particularly if you're trying to make a feature. People are like, who's the kind of hero? Where's the what's the drum? What's the personal journey? And it doesn't really fit into any of those things. It's a sort of a mondo film. I don't know if you're familiar with that. So there's a sort of genre of films that were made in the 60s, which were called mondo, and they were kind of like these. They were banned because they had some pretty dodgy footage in, and it was these sort of like Britannia kind of global films that looked at like subjects around the world, and I've always been really influenced by that sort of stuff. So it started out as a really ambitious idea to make a longer film, and it kind of didn't really go as far as I'd like it to have done. And then the producer that I was working with, who's another brilliant filmmaker, Andrew Hinton, who just won the Vimeo Award, bastard. Basically, he saw this fund for a Jewish film festival, and I would never have applied to that because I'm not Jewish, So I kind of think, why would they pick me? I'm not Jewish. And anyway, he wrote this terrible treatment that he sent them. That they kind of went, well, look, this sounds interesting. We like the idea of luck, but this is terrible. Like, write us something else. And so I kind of went in and I just sort of, I guess I just blagged it. And Andrew didn't do a great job. I think he's a great filmmaker. He's not a great producer, to be honest, because he just didn't negotiate very well on the money. And we kind of got stitched on our budget, which should have been better.
What was the budget?
It was for that, I think we had about £8 grand to make that film.
It looks like it must have taken quite a long time.
It did, and it also, that film, we started out with this much more conceptual idea of luck. I wanted to do something where each interviewee would nominate the next person, so there was almost like this sort of chain mail, kind of chain letter idea that I sort of explored a bit in the True Fictions project, which was the film about 9/11, and that I'd done some work with the music, where I'd kind of taken the music and I played one piece of music to the next musician, and they'd responded, and I kind of created this sort of blind, kind of exquisite corpse kind of idea. And I wanted to try that out with narrative, and it just went nowhere, because no one in the Jewish community would nominate someone else who was unlucky, because in the Jewish community it's very unlucky to do that. And then you get the evil eye, and they're like, oh no, I don't do that. So then very quickly we realised, oh shit, that whole idea is just totally not going to work, and so we ended up having to research and find people, and that's where David Schneider came from. We just spent a lot of time talking to people in the Jewish community who kind of found people who would be willing to talk to us, and we found a lovely Harvey Borowski, the rabbi, who was brilliant and came out with all this. I mean, so much funny, amusing anecdotes, and I mean, again, that film could be much longer, and it's got so many other things that I can put in it. I don't know if that answers your question.
How are we doing?
Out of time.
So, out of time.
Any more questions?
If you've thought of a question and you have a chance to ask it, we do now have a 5-minute break, so you may still be able to get your answer.